My, quite a few of you wanted to hear my thoughts on the opening and ending of the anime, specifically the animated sequences. As at this point in time, I feel like all of us Twist fans have heard Piece of My World 10 billion times, perhaps. But since you all asked so nicely, I figured I would indulge you with my takes on the intro and outro animations. This is not going to be a blind reaction, but more of a pointing out details and things of that nature. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Now, I know the mirrors aren't technically part of the anime intro, but I do want to point them out because the art is really cool for them. And I think if you know who they are, great. If you don't know who they are, it adds some intrigue. However, I do think that the majority of the faces of the characters and the way that it is set up in almost all of the instances, you pretty much know who's going to overblot, right? It feels kind of spoilery to do this. It is, in essence, a wonderful, wonderful collage of the different overblottees and underscoring the importance of the little time that we have, right? And the art is great. The art is fantastic. Like, look at that. Jamil's is really quick, but look at that. Look at how crazy he looks. It's fantastic. They're very, very beautiful, but I know that it's rather contentious, this specific part of the opening, which is only for here because it is only this part of the prologue. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal because at this point in time, if you were to search for any Twisted Wonderland content, you are going to find out who overblots almost instantaneously. So while I do understand the criticism of this specific sequence, and my initial thought was, hey, wait, they leaked Jamil. Realistically speaking, if you look up anything, you are going to find this information whether you like it or not. You are going to find fan art whether you like it or not of the overblot forms. You are going to encounter this whether you like it or not. It's just going to happen. And I think based off it being villains, if anyone is familiar with the Disney IP and with the Disney villains and kind of vaguely understands that Azul being octopus adjacent would naturally mean that he's probably Ursula adjacent, it's really not that big of a spoiler and not that big of a deal. My initial reaction was, oh no, they're leaking all of the overblottees. But after I had a minute to think about it, you're gonna find out about them anyway. You're gonna know. It's not that big of a deal. And we get this super cool art in the introduction as well, which I think is more than worth it. You know, like it's so cool. It's so cool. It's such a good time. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I just wanted to talk about it because I'd seen a lot of discourse, and I figured I'd give my 2 cents before we get into the meat and the potatoes of the introduction. All right, so the intro with all the house wardens, right? We got everybody. Then we get focused on Heartslable, and we get to see a little bit of the dynamic, right? We get to see a little bit of the dorm, which is honestly kind of nice. Very lovely architecture. The wallpaper drives me nuts, but that's just an aesthetic thing. And then you have Ace and Deuce tackling one another, which is just fantastic. The two of them going and arguing and falling over each other, and then it switches to Riddle, and it's beautiful, right? And he needs to be separate because he's the house warden, and he has a very, very beautiful visual. The transition as well with the cape and the rose petals, it's almost as if he's walking in front of them, even though that's not what's happening, right? But it can almost read that way, and then it smoothly transitions into him in his spot, right? In his power, in his moment. Looking fancy, staring off into the distance, and then having the fun little background with the roses and the card suits. And it's very, very pretty. A lot of attention was put on them. And same thing for Savannah Claw. So the 3 arcs that are confirmed seem to have a bit more effort put into them. So now, playing Spell Drive in Savannah Claw, going into Leona, having that 90s, 80s portrait, disembodied head. I just realized his Tootsies are out. Oh, I don't like that at all. Why are your dogs out, Leona? No. Maybe they're trying to prove it's not made with AI. I've seen that recently where artists will purposefully add fingers even if the reference doesn't have fingers so that their art has the correct amount of fingers so no one can say that it's AI. Is that what we're doing? Is that this seems so unnecessary? Anyway, he's got his like 80s portrait happening in the sky. Very detailed. Then of course we get Grimm doing his thing and Crowley going milady before he turns into a theater kid full tilt. I don't think I saw this frame before. I think it went too fast and I got way too focused on him doing his theater kid thing. But this is a lovely frame. I love this. I love this still so much. He's so goofy. But this works very, very well with the music. There's not enough time to introduce someone else with a little interlude that's happening. And then we go to Octave and Nell, so we can see all their personalities very well. Jade, the butler. Lloyd, the loose cannon. Azul, the boss but not boss. And we get a little bit more of the lounge. He brought out his special chair just for us today. Isn't that so lovely of Azul to have done? I can't imagine. Maybe they have one seat places if you're here by yourself, but I think they just brought out the couch for dramatic effect. But the lounge looks great. That they're just doing their thing. Azul's like, hey, sign this contract, please, right? It's not as detailed. I feel like Savannah Claw was more detailed because they're active. And then Octave and Nell's just kind of there, which is fine because they're not as active in the same way. But then we get to Scarabia, which I know they're not confirmed for a season yet. But what do you mean they're just on little hoverboards? They're just on little conveyor belts. Like, they're not moving themselves. Like, they are not walking. They are just hovering in place. And it's wacky to me. It's really wacky to me. I don't like that part of it. I do like what they do with, excuse me, Edia, hold on. I do like what they do with the little whoosh, the little shooting star thingy, and then you have the two of them in the background. That part reminded me a lot of the two of them spinning in the sun and moon in the Scarabia trailer for the game. I liked that quite a bit. I almost wish they would have repurposed that for here instead. Have them spin around and then go back to back and then do this. I think could have been cool. It would have been a little more expensive, I think, for the budget than having them conveyor belt across the screen. But that struck me as really lazy, especially compared to the first three. But the first three dorms are, you know, I mean, Octave and Nell is kind of a little lazy, but this is a whole new level of lazy, right? But the way that it transitions into Ignihide is really cool, becoming just like the background of one of Edia's screens. That's a very fun detail. And then you get to see him and Ortho flying in from above. You have all of the technology, as is tradition with Edia, which this sequence for them does not feel out of place. I'm getting excited. Then you have this poison apple come up and I was like, oh, what are they gonna do with this? And then it's just a still image, another still image, and then, oh, weird perspective. Like, it is so lazy from Pomfiore. So lazy. And like the mirror thing is cool and I know what it's connecting to, but it just feels so lazy compared to everything else. Like, you couldn't have had like Apple tilt his head a little bit or like Rook drawing the bow just to make it a little more interesting. Have some sort of something else happening to make it not just a flat image in the mirror. You can still do this concept because then Vil moves and then you get this really awkward perspective with him and holding the apple. It just feels really cheap. Even though I'm sure it wasn't cheap because of the way that the 3D modeling is for the mirror. I'm sure. But you also already had that. So you already had the assets to do it, right? So you could have. You just give them a little extra time and you could have put those animated stills in because you have the technology. You already rendered it for this. The mirror's already rendered for this sequence, right? They're re-rendering to have it be the Pomfiore, but you already have the assets. Then just pulling, because right here, you could have him like halfway, not even, like just a couple frames to give it movement. I think that would have been very easy to implement and it would have elevated that segment. Because even Scarabia on their awkward little conveyor belts have more movement and more interest than the Pomfiore section. because they're at least slightly animated. And then you get their like headshots. Even Idia is slightly animated. Ortho's animated. Everyone else is animated except for Epple and Rook. And it pisses me off because it would have been so easy to still do this exact same concept, but have them animated even just a little bit. And then Vil's okay. The perspective is weird, but at least Vil's doing something. Because then Diasomnia has this whole magical pen thing, right? So like they have movement. Some of them are lazy, but then you go from still images, just still little images flipping and flopping, to full magical pen girl summoning animation with Lilia moving and everything, and then going onto Malleus's face. So Malleus technically doesn't move, right? Technically the camera moves towards Malleus. The lighting changes, right? The lighting changes, but these could be separate still images, right? Because you're going closer to him. And then his eyes open a little bit, and then you're on the eyes, right? You get the magical girl. You get the two of them. Like Silver and Sebek don't necessarily need to move, but Lilia has a little bit of movement, right? Because they are the bodyguards, so them, you know, kind of coming up. But Lilia, at least being animated, gives it a little something. And then the magical pen becoming the overblot is just beautiful. Then you get your little Heartslibble boys, of course, with the music. And then you get your still images, which is fine. At that point in time, they're all introduced, so that's okay. And then the cutest part of this whole entire thing. Oh, it made me tear up a little bit. Grim is so sad. Grim is so sad and by himself in the darkness. And then Yu offers his hand and Grim gets so excited. He gets so happy. And he's just living his life. And they go forth. And then you have Riddle in the gate reaching out for you. And then all of the portraits, which is kind of cute. It's a little cute that they're all in these portraits. They are all in the exact same frames as the portraits of the Great Seven in Crowley's office, which is a little wild. And then I hate the way the logo comes in. It feels so slow, and then the animation just pops up. I get it with the music. I think the reason I hate this as much as I do is because I am so used to seeing the game screen pop up with the reversed logo on top of Night Raven College being so dark, that having the regular logo on a white background is so jarring to me because I am expecting the complete inverse. And for it to take as much time as it does to kind of mint, like it just, like everything is already there. It just slowly comes together, and then the animation just pops up. I think it could have been the way that the logo comes in could have been done much better. Even if they just lifted how they do it in the game, I think that would have been better, personally speaking. Like it's so slow, and then the animation's just there. Like the pacing is off. And the colors are off, and all of that is off. I think after having watched it so many times, I think the introduction is well and good enough. My only gripes are Scarabia looking like they're coming in on a conveyor belt, and the fact that Pomfiore was so lazy compared to every other dorm. They had nothing going on except for Vil reaching out with an apple. And I think the intro sequence will obviously update. Savannah Claw is going to have a little bit more importance on them. Perhaps they'll show up first before Heartslibble when Savannah Claw book comes out. The ending part of the sequence is absolutely going to change with the way that they set it up. The Yu reaching out for Grim will likely change to the next Yu. Obviously, the House Warden in the gate that is featured is going to change based off the book. Like that is a given. But everything else, I have a feeling, is probably going to stay the same, which makes me really sad for Pomfiore until we get to their book. Oh, also, where it shows the overblot happening is going to change color. The Mage Stone will change color probably, and so will like the background of the blot, right? Yellow for Savannah Claw, lavender for Octabanel, so on and so forth. But I don't think it's bad. As far as intros go, it's fine. People are likely going to be skipping it anyway, so how much attention are you really going to put into it, you know? I'd give it, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 6. Like, it's okay. It's a little above average. There are some good parts to it, but there's nothing in the introduction that really speaks to me. But it does what it's supposed to do. The outro, on the other hand, is way more impactful. Way more impactful. Especially as someone who knows what is going on. I thought that the way that they were doing the kaleidoscope roses is really, really fun. I wasn't expecting that at all, but I think it does. And then the way that it gets desaturated as Riddle comes on screen, and the only thing is his eye and the rose petals that are in color. It's fantastic, right? It goes from being colorful and wonderful and whimsical to dreary and serious. I underscores where his character is at in this current moment. Because you have all of this beauty, you have all of this chaos in a way, and it gets reined in, and it gets controlled. And then you have these beautiful, beautiful, I don't know exactly what the technical term is for it. I don't know, but the suits with these inlays, these intricate inlays of filigree, they're beautiful. And the way that when the music snaps, it goes to the character that they're associated with, beautiful. The fact that the character that they snap to is also the character that is currently singing is another layer of detail that I didn't even realize until I was going through to record this today. That it's each one lines up with the line that that character is singing in obedience, and that is beautiful. And they also kind of give the character, because you got Ace doing his thing, then you got Deuce being slightly scared but also slightly serious about using his magic. You got Trey being sus as always, right? And then you have Cater just being happy-go-lucky and taking his selfie. Then you have Riddle surfacing, looking at the beautiful world around him, almost in shock, but like at the beauty of Heartstable, as everyone's hard work is going, right? Everybody's in a state of happy until they're not. The overblot, right? The pain. You have like this beauty and this joy juxtaposed immediately when the chorus kicks in. But this sequence where Riddle is leading the pack of collared kiddos, this visual is so amazing. Like, when I saw this the first time, I think I even was speechless, because Riddle really thinks in his heart of hearts that he has to lead and he has to set them on the right path, and he is the only one who knows that path. And if the only way to get them to follow him down the straight and narrow is to collar them and beat them into obedience, then he has to do it. He feels morally obligated to do so. And that is encapsulated so perfectly in this small little sequence. And I think that I think it was also intentional that this is where the obedience credit comes in, right? You have Riddle leading a pack of people that he doesn't even see, that he doesn't even acknowledge their individuality or their personalities or the fact that they are humans, right? Because they are faceless. It doesn't matter to him. He needs to lead them down the straight and narrow, and he's not going to recognize them until they are doing that themselves, which they likely won't do, right? That to me is what this entire sequence is saying. And I cackled when I saw that obedience was on top of it. Because this is literally the queen's obedience, right? You either follow me or you die. And then you get some lightheartedness again, right? But the lightheartedness is devoid of Riddle. The lightheartedness is everybody but Riddle. And then you have this image, which nearly made me cry the first time that I saw it. Because you have Riddle and his childhood self, and they are bound together by thorns. You cannot escape your childhood self, right? Your inner child is always going to be with you. And I am not a psychologist, but from what I understand, that is always the thing, right? You always got to heal the inner child. You got to take care of the inner child. You got to all that kind of stuff. And here, Riddle has his inner child entangled next to him. He cannot get away from them even if he wanted to. And the being tied to that self is painful. Like, there's a level of pain here that may not be super deep on the surface because the thorns don't look that big, but you are completely entangled in thorns. Like, it is always poking at your side. It is always prodding you. It is always, and it could be chalked up to the fact that they're supposed to be rose thorns because, he's the Queen of Hearts guy with the roses and the rose petals and the roses, and his last name is Rose Hearts. But it also, I think, has this sort of metaphorical meaning. And then his younger self reaching out with hope and just trying to, and him just giving them side eye. And then you have the tea party, right? So you have everybody here. You got everybody doing their thing, Grim and Ace fighting, classic. And Riddle's here, and he goes, all right, he lets it go, but then he separates himself from them. He chooses to walk away from the group instead of join them. And I think that that's rather symbolic as well. And you can kind of see, like, Ace and Grim are on their own thing, but Cater and Trey are like, oh man. Trey's eyes are zoomed in on Riddle. Cater's like, uh-oh, what are we gonna do about this? And Deuce is like confused. These two, they're preoccupied. But Riddle's actively choosing to walk away from everyone, and I think that is a fantastic detail. And then it just leads back into the desaturated walking away before coming back to color, and it's a very lovely little sequence. I think if you don't know what's going on, right? If you have no idea about Riddle, you have no idea about the plot of the story, right? There's a lot to kind of infer. But you get this juxtaposition between Riddle being this very serious and very like solemn in most of the scenes that he is in, whereas everyone else in the dorm has a level of freedom that he doesn't. Because they are so colorful and they are able to look at things differently, I feel like, versus Riddle being the one who feels that he is forced to lead the pack. He is forced to do X, Y, and Z. And I think there is a clear distinction between like that happy beginning and then the falling into the obedience. But even in like the baking of the tart, there is still a level of happiness and excitement and color that just is not present within the rest of Riddle's visuals in the ending. Because even his choice to walk away from them just feels so in character for how Riddle was in book 1. I don't really know how else to explain it. It just feels like there's a lot of symbolic imagery that you could attribute to the things that I'm attributing, right? But you don't have to. And if you don't know any of those things to be able to attribute them in that way, I think you get a lot of very interesting questions about like, oh, you got all these guys being super happy, but then you got this kid wrapped with his childhood self. Like, what is going on with this dude? What is happening here, right? Why is this happening? Why is he leading all these people? Why isn't he participating in anything with the other guys? They're all part of the same team, right? So why is he separating himself? There's a lot of very interesting questions I think you can ask from the sequence. And I just think it's really well. This is like an 8 out of 10. Maybe even an 8.5 out of 10. I don't think it's fully perfect. I think it's beautiful in what it tries to do. I think I'm injecting a lot of meaning into it that's probably not supposed to be there. But I think that it's done in such an intentional way to show very specific things. And I think that it works very well for the plot of Heartstable, the plot of book 1. For what it's trying to encapsulate, it's encapsulating it, right? And it's doing it in like less than a minute. But anyway, those are all of my 2 cents on these things. But I, as always, would like to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Do you agree with some of my statements? Do you disagree? Do you have a favorite part? Do you have unfavorite parts? Let me know everything. Let me know everything in the comments down below. And if you like content like this, please also leave a like and maybe even subscribe. But as always, before you go, I just have to remind you that you're amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful day.